So today I shall briefly trace some of the paths that go from the basic materials and mechanics involved in the use of paper, and then move on upwards onto more complex communicative strategies for private and public interaction in several walks of civic life. I shall first discuss some handbooks for merchants which taught applied mathematics and algebra for the conduct of everyday business. I will explore their continuity with textbooks for calligraphy and orthography that also inform their readers about different sorts of paper and writing instruments. And I will conclude with manuals that established patterns and protocols for the composition of letters and formal modes of address adapted to a large variety of social situations. Let me start with a quick reminder to frame what I am about to discuss. As we all know, paper was introduced in the European Mediterranean almost simultaneously with the use of new Arabic numerals and with the adoption of mathematical and algebraic skills that originally hailed from India. Like paper, as we all know, the numerical signifiers employed for the quantification of things and goods, the earth and the cosmos, traveled a long road from Asia to the shores of the Mediterranean. The abundance of paper, cheap and light, was chief among the material conditions that contributed to the emergence of all these practices and dynamized their widespread adoption. Paper pervades the complex architecture of early modern social, legal, and economic structures as its medium of choice. We cannot approach the cultural history of paper without taking into consideration all these different spheres. This also explains why an interdisciplinary approach to the materiality of paper on the one hand, and to the normative social, political, and economic texts that used it as a vehicle on the other, constitutes a relevant chapter in the history of early modern communication. The earliest surviving quaderni di mercatura date from the 13th century, and they consisted mostly in personal commonplace books for the use of merchants and their associates. But as the increase of trade and its geographical expansion called for ever more sophisticated methods, these handbooks evolved accordingly into educational tools for a population of merchants, bankers, and above all for their scribes and clerks. Some quaderni, such as La Pratica della Mercatura de Francesco di Balducci Pegolotti, record the list of prices and goods in different places around the Mediterranean and well beyond it, including paper. I'm going to show you just a few examples. Carte di papeo arissima. This is Carte di papeo arissima anche. This is in Venice. Okay. The other one was in Mallorca. Carte mezzane, carte reali, chi vende denari tre perissima. Okay. And it also lists different sorts of paper, carte marchigiane, carte reali, carte di Damasco, e carte di Strasciare. Pegolotti also provides an economic cartography of the known world at the time, listing information that ranges from data about sheep raising monasteries in England to markets in spices from Egypt to Persia, as well as providing practical information about trading posts in North Africa, Crimea, and all along the Silk Road, all the way down to Cathay. The enormous amount of information that went into a text of this sort was coordinated and registered mostly on paper by scribes educated in scriptural methods and accounting skills acquired thanks to sophisticated treatises and more modest handbooks in each of the disciplines involved, which used the alphabet and the numerical system as their semiotic building blocks. In 1494, Luca Pacioli's Summa di Aritmetica, Geometria, Proporzioni e Proporzionalità sought to formulate for trade a language that gave it the same epistemological foundations that he found in Euclid's Elements. He discussed several different systems of currency, weights, and measures in a manner reminiscent of the Quaderni di Mercatura. And for example, his section on double entry bookkeeping was significantly titled De Tractatus de Computis et Scripturis. The importance of these officers, accountants, scribes, and clerks, and the skills they brought to the business of trade is underlined by Domenico Peris, Il Negoziante, whose opening chapters are devoted to the protocols employed in the elaboration of mercantile and financial documents, their management and their classification. And chapter 10 in particular deals with the scritturale, the officer whose job is to register all the information about the activities of the company. His office, says Peri, is the most important among all of those required for the good governance of business. But let me go back to Pacioli and his approach to an important aspect of script and print, I should add too. In another of his works, in his De Divina Proportione, he included a section on the design of letter forms, which brings the methods for graphic design, the iconic infrastructure of communication through script, under the principles of Euclidean geometry, just like architecture or cosmography. For Pacioli, Platonic solids, geometry, arithmetic, graphic design, and accountancy are all regulated by universal geometric and mathematical principles. A similar approach can be found in Girolamo Tagliente and his close king Giovanni Antonio Tagliente, whose handbooks illustrate the link between these abstract universal principles with much more mundane tasks. Girolamo's Libro d'Abaco combines training in mathematical operations involving the exchange of goods between different locations in different currencies with basic skills in geometry for the very practical purpose of measuring land, building, and walls. Its paratexts combine the mundane, that is, engravings that illustrate common everyday mercantile activities, with the global cosmographic. Its title page displays Pythagoras and Ptolemy applying algebra and trigonometry to the measurement of an armillary sphere, and its title proclaims the global economic scope of Venice and the universal nature of its contents. Libro d'Abaco che insegna a fare ogni ragione mercantile e a pertegare le terre con l'arte di la geometria e altre nobilissime ragioni straordinarie con la tariffa come raspondono i pesci e monete de molte terre del mondo con la inglita città di Venezia, il qual libro si chiama Tesauro Universale. In 1525, a close relative of Girolamo, Giovanni Antonio Tagliente, published a handbook for practical communication skills, which went through many subsequent editions and whose full title explicitly proclaims that lo presente libro insegna la vera arte dello eccellente scrivere de diverse varie sorti di littere, le quali si fanno per geometrica ragione. His dedicatory preface lists the different types of script, which are classified according to a variety of parameters, such as the functions of the documents in which they were to be employed, different languages, and other formal features. His target reader was the trainee scritturale, the officer who ran the legal, economic, and administrative entrails of the early modern world. Giovanni Antonio Tagliente descends to details such as the way in which the pen must be held, how it should be sharpened depending on the sort of letter, the different sorts of pen, and the qualities of a good writing instrument, as well as the tools which are required for the preparation and upkeep of the pen, the paper, and the rest of the writing tools, even the position of the body when writing. Another section of his handbook is dedicated to the best sort of paper according to the kind of letter you need to use. E per darti ammaestramento in ogni tuo bisogno partenente all'arte dell'escrivere, io ti dichiaro la bontà delle carte partenente alle qualità di diverse sorte di lettere e prima la lettera cancellaresca si vuole carta sottilissima, che sia di che generazione si voglia, e sia lisa bianca, ed abbia buona cola vero, e che la carta de Fabriano è più laudabile che di niuno altro loco. E questo che per i valenti scrittori sempre scrivono con la mano leggera. E veramente La lettera mercatantesca desidera carta ferma e salda, e similmente tutte le altre qualità delle lettere ferme grosse desiderano carta grossa, lisa, mezzana e reale che abbia buona cola. E questa intelligenza è necessaria per beneficio di ogni qualità di lettere. But beyond these basic skills in written communication, Giovanni Antonio Tagliente also provided discursive models and epistolary etiquette in another of his bestsellers, the Componimento di Parlamenti, whose full title is also very revealing. Formulario nuovo, che insegna a ogni qualità di persone a dictar lettere mesive e responsive di varie e diverse materie per giornata occorrenti con le sue mansioni e sottoscrizioni. The title already hints at the fact that this is a handbook for the composition of communicative exchanges for different sorts of people, ogni qualità di persone, and different purposes, diverse materie. A veritable catalog of communicative strategies, it was also a model with norms for social interaction, the written equivalent of the handbooks for conversational etiquette that were so common at the time. And for instance, we find several models of correspondence between father and son, mother and daughter, mother and son, brother to brother, sister to brother, sister-in-law to brother-in-law, or one good father to another. His handbook does not simply provide stylistic models. It de facto regulates personal and emotional interactions among different family members. This naturally involves the record in script of the sort of power relations that existed within domestic emotional economies. His catalog of communicative exchanges also extended to the registration in epistolary etiquette of relations between different agents in economic transactions, a merchant writing to another merchant, a merchant writing to his factor, the factor writing to his merchant boss, or a merchant banker to another fellow merchant banker. His etiquette also registers the interaction among different social classes, professionals and officers, a gentleman to another, a marquis to a duke, the emperor to a king, a scholar to the priest, a scribe to a master in theology, a vicar to an abbot, a layperson to a priest, doctor, a citizen to the patriarch of Constantinople, a gentleman to a bishop, a scribe to a cardinal's secretary, and so on and so forth. The book ends with formal protocols for addressing, in the course of an audience, a number of authorities from emperors, kings and princes to dukes, justices, military officers, and preachers. After providing information on how to run a business through correspondence and how to establish epistolary, social, and family bonds, Tagliente tried his hand at the most private of all sorts of interpersonal communication, compiling another very successful catalog of love letters, the opera amorosa che insegna a componer lettere et a rispondere a persone d'amor ferite, ove in amor viventi, in tosca lingua composta, con piacer non poco e diletto di tutti gli amanti, la qual si chiama Il rifugio di amanti. There is an expression in Giovanni Antonio Tagliente's orthography handbook, which describes it as a formulario nuovo. The use of printed forms and of questionnaires was also a relatively new phenomenon. Printed forms were first used for papal bulls, for example. In general, they established common protocols to homogenize and classify information and were used by merchants, scientists, as well as for the collection of administrative information. There are many other documentary genres like this, which seek to regulate paper-based communication and the exchange of knowledge in a diversity of disciplines, practices, and social spheres, which I do not have time to discuss today. Let me just conclude by saying that these practices and their documentary genres were so deeply ingrained in the economic, political, and intellectual fabric of the Mediterranean that once they had been acquired and widely adopted, they became a routine, part of the landscape, as it were. They constitute, however, the inescapable communicative infrastructure of an increasingly global Mediterranean. Paper, that light and inexpensive media, did not just materialize it, but also dynamize the creation of regional and global communication networks. And that's all as far as I'm concerned. Thank you very much.